Well, we all remember that classic country song, Take This Job and Shove It. There are millions of Americans right now who are thinking about entrepreneurship. How do you know if you're cut out for it? That's next on The Jeff Crilley Show.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is The Jeff Crilley Show.
So I was a TV news reporter, as many of you know, for 25 years, and I remember quitting, and my finger hovered over that I quit button on the computer for about a minute, because I realized, gosh, if I send this email to the boss and quit, I'm not going to take it back. And so I pushed that button, and there was exhilaration and fear all at the same time. What did I just do? Because it's the difference between a lion in the wild and a lion at the zoo. A lion in the wild has to hunt. A lion at the zoo gets a steak every morning at 10 and every afternoon at 2. They don't have to hunt. To talk about the wild, wild west of entrepreneurship, a good friend, Don Williams, speaker, author, thought leader, and a big part of EO Fort Worth, which we'll talk about in a minute. Thank you for coming on the show.
Jeff, thank you so much for having me. Thrilled to be here again.
Well, we were talking off camera about, you at one point worked for someone else, and then you decided to quit. So tell us that story.
I did. So at 19, I had become the top salesman in the country out of 450 salespeople for a company, and they did something no company should do. They promoted me to manager, which typically you lose a great salesperson and get a poor manager. Worked out for them. Took me about 6 months to become the top manager in the country. About a year to work my way into partnership with the owner, and thought that was going to be phenomenal. When it came time for the first distribution, there was an issue, a delay. And when the delay time frame was up, there was another delay. And when that time frame was up, there was another delay, and I resigned. And so while I had the utmost respect for him, and he truly was a phenomenal leader, he didn't pay me as agreed. And so I quit and became his competitor.
Wow. Okay, so those first days of doing this, that had to be scary because you weren't getting a check every 2 weeks like you had in the past.
Well, there was some fear and some exhilaration, because I'd done the math. I knew what kind of money was coming in the doors at the company, and I knew what I was getting paid and how I felt about that. But I honestly thought it was going to go much better than it did. And so I was ill-prepared to deal with balance sheets and P&Ls and HR and sales tax and blah, 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 blah. I came up through sales and sales management. And so I knew how to get business. I knew how to get a lot of it. I knew how to develop leaders, but I didn't know anything about business. And while I wouldn't recommend that as a good path to entrepreneurship, it works.
How does somebody know if they are cut out for being an entrepreneur? Because even like during this pandemic, it was brutal on even successful entrepreneurs.
It was. And so there were successful entrepreneurs that suffered horribly, successful entrepreneurs that their business exploded, they thrived. So I think there's a couple common denominators. One, if you ask the question, will I be any good at this? I think that's a good sign that you probably will be. Okay, I think every entrepreneur is maybe a little neurotic about what's going to happen, and that promotes them to, hustle harder, right, do a little more, work a little harder, get a little more done. The other thing that I see as a common thread through entrepreneurs everywhere. And we talked about this off camera. I was like, so when you worked for someone, Jeff, were you a hard worker or were you not? And you said, oh, I was a very hard worker. And work ethic is almost 100% down the entrepreneur ranks of people that it may look like they're not working very hard right now, but at some, and maybe they're not, okay, it's certainly okay to go spend a month in Cabo, okay, but at some point, these were people who got up early, who worked late, who didn't go to dinner. I mean, they made personal sacrifices trying to push the effort forward. And so I think that's very common among successful entrepreneurs.
And knowing what you're good at. I mean, there's a lot of people who, they start a donut shop because they love donuts. But then they go to 2 donut shops and suddenly they're managing a team and it's not fun anymore. Their art was the donut and now they're doing something that they don't get joy from. I know you coach entrepreneurs all the time. I mean, everybody has their own secret sauce. This is what I'm born to do.
So I think entrepreneurs, and I learned this from my own personal experience of trying to do everything the best it can be done. And while I'm a high performer across the board, there are things that just literally suck the life out of me. And so after 35 years, I'm a learner, but maybe a slow learner. I've learned that really, I think a leader should only invest their time in their highest leverage activities. So the things that you do that no one else can do. We're on the Jeff Crilley Show. Obviously, there's only one person who can host that show, and you're doing your highest, serving your highest purpose, and you have other people serving not lower, but other purposes, which is probably their highest purpose. And that's how a team really starts making huge strides forward.
Wow. Well, we should also point out that you're a best-selling author. We're going to put up some of your books: Build Your Big Legacy, Romancing Your Customer, DIY, Outbound Contact Center Toolbox. You're a prolific writer. I joked that I wrote a book 20 years ago, and that's it. I retired. I'm no longer writing books. Do the ideas just come to you?
So I'm one of those people who other people would say he's full of it. I'm not exactly sure what it is. I'm not sure what they're referring to. Book number 4, which is a gratitude book, be out in 30 days, maybe 45, but it's real. It's like 3rd and goal on the 6. I mean, we're close at this point. And so I think this is common with entrepreneurs. They have an idea fountain in their brain that just keeps running. And sometimes they're chasing every idea, which is generally not a good idea. But I have a lot of that. But I also consult and help people, find $1 million in revenue or $10 million in revenue, easy, quick, not painful. And so I get tons of stories just from people that I know, and without breaching anything that would be confidential, I'm just full of it, Jeff. What can I say? I'm just full of it.
You're a very successful trainer, and we're going to put up some video of you doing a workshop. I know one of the things you train on is sales, and sales is kind of the lifeblood of every company. That I like to say that in football, winning is a great deodorant. You can have other things going wrong with the team, but as long as they're winning, it's
all good.
Yeah, right. You got to have sales. If the money's not coming in the door, it creates a myriad of problems, doesn't it?
It does. So I was on a call the other day, and another coach said, "So Don, is all you do sales?" And I was like, "Yes, all I really do is sales." But to me, I think that adequate, strong, growing sales will cure about 50% of what's wrong with your business. And the other 50% will be HR and ops and taxes and blah, 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 blah. And I don't say that derogatorily, but that those are more mechanical processes of a business. Having a personal connection with people, because people buy from people. People don't buy from companies. People buy from people. And making it very easy for people to do business is the way I think you should do it. And every client sees huge strides merely because we assess their current process. We stop the stupid. Almost everybody is doing some things that really are sales prevention. Okay. And they don't mean to, and they don't even know why, but an outsider can see, I think we should stop that, like yesterday, and then move everything else to best practice. And it's impossible not to see an improvement. I mean, it's just impossible. In Romance Your Customer, we talk about you have one of three problems. You either need more dates, so the romancing metaphor, or you need to be a better dater, or both.
Yes.
And it's really that simple.
Do you think some people have just a mental block when it comes to sales? I mean, I think of the famous movie Glenn Ross, Coffee is for Closers. I mean, they think it's a boiler room. They think it's, I got to make cold calls. And that's not really sales, is it?
Not really. I mean, it could be a component of more dates. We got to reach out to more people.
Yeah.
But for some reason, scientists are attracted to me, doctors, pharmacists, engineers, IT pros, people that are very high IQ and maybe a quart low EQ. So their emotional intelligence is maybe not quite as strong. And people buy emotionally. It can't be nonsensical. It cannot be illogical. Our brain will veto anything that the heart loves but makes no sense. But as long as it makes sense, the brain will say, passed. Okay. And so you deal with people from their heart. Okay, and you see things from their perspective. And really, here's a big piece. Quit selling. Start helping. What could I do to elevate Jeff's experience? And when you see things from that point of view in a genuine manner, other people know that, sense that.
Yes.
Okay.
How does one know when to bring in somebody like you? If the boss is all out of tricks, or maybe they're not even listening to the boss anymore because they're so familiar with his or her message. I mean, you're never a prophet in your own hometown.
No, never.
Bringing in Don to coach a sales team really pays a lot of dividends, doesn't it?
It does pay a lot of dividends. And I'll tell you when people do bring in me or someone like me, and then I'll tell you when they should, in my opinion. So they do bring in me or someone like me when they're in pain. Things are not going well. We're not selling enough. My gosh, we've had a pandemic. We used to be 35 million. Now we're 27 million. We're not real sure how to find the handle again, that type of thing. And that's very common for when someone will reach out, for help. But really when you should reach out for help is today. I don't care if your sales are up or in the middle or down. If I had a magic box here, a black box that had magic written across it, and I said, Jeff, this magic box, if you put in $25,000, just for example, and more money than $25,000 is going to come out the other end of the box. Do you really care what your current sales are?
Right.
Does it really matter? No, because this is extra money. Okay. And so when things are good, go from good to great.
Yes.
When things are bad, go from bad to better. When things are better, go from better to good. Okay. We know that perfection is a fruitless endeavor. We can never be perfect, but we can improve. And that's brick by brick, Brutus, step by step.
Well, another important message for entrepreneurs is find your tribe. And you and I are a member of EO. You're a member of EO Fort Worth. I'm a member of EO Dallas. We're broadcasting here from Fort Worth.
Yeah.
You've been there for 7 years now. Tell everybody a little bit about Entrepreneurs Organization.
So Entrepreneurs Organization is 14,000 plus entrepreneurs all around the globe, every continent except Antarctica, 163 chapters, 70 countries, something like that. Very robust local membership in Dallas and in Fort Worth. And basically it's a peer group. It's where people like you and I, even though we're in totally different businesses, okay, but you and I met maybe 5 or 6 years ago.
Right, at an event.
At an event. And have crossed paths multiple times in that time frame. And it's people that are committed to learning and people that are committed to improving. And I think most entrepreneurs join EO to build their business. I think if you could get a survey of everybody, they'd all say, I joined to build my business. And I think what most of us find is the best way to build our business is to improve ourselves. And as high tide rises all boats. As I improve myself, does my business improve? Yeah. Does my family improve? Yeah. But the biggest movement was I improved me, and that had positive repercussions.
There's a wonderful overview video of EO. Let's go ahead and roll that now.
Entrepreneurs are shaping the world.
Entrepreneurs have generated the bulk of the net new jobs for the past 10 years or so. So affiliating with entrepreneurs just ensures that we're affiliating with the future.
If you support and help entrepreneurs grow, you'll see the benefits of that entrepreneurship flourish all over the world.
If you look back at things that were extraordinary yesterday, they're ordinary today, and they were created by entrepreneurs.
Entrepreneurs Organization is the only global peer-to-peer network. It's been around since 1987.
EO members around the world have one thing in common. They're a very determined bunch of people. A true entrepreneur is all about creativity, change, innovation.
When I speak specifically to EO members and I ask them, what do you get out of your membership? It's the trusted network of people that are there at any given time to help you.
So when you're working with entrepreneurs and there's all these new things that they're working on, you're kind of the first to know what's going on. And that's very important as an entrepreneur myself trying to grow my business.
The 4 pillars of EO are businesses, family, ourselves, and community. They not only want to move the needle from a business standpoint, but also do it with integrity.
Partnering with EO gives us a return on investment, not just financially. I'm able to make friends, meet new people, get clients, get referrals.
I would say I credit EO with helping us launch in various cities and in expanding our customer base.
From a partnership perspective, you can extend your global reach to how many companies you can potentially help right out of the gates with EO.
It's truly a win-win-win partnership. The member wins because they receive discounts. EO wins because we provide them financial support, and we win because we get access to qualified membership base that we can provide great service for.
I feel extremely proud to be a part of that journey by associating with them.
One of the coolest things, Don, I think I've experienced is you have a brotherhood or sisterhood all over the planet. If you're traveling and you happen to be in Philadelphia, you could call a brother or sister with EO, and they would pick up the phone and they would, drop what they're doing.
They drop what they're doing. They probably take you to dinner. They may demand that you stay at their home, and that could be Philadelphia or Barcelona. It really wouldn't make any difference.
Right.
And I have been around the world, I think, 3 times with EO, and probably there's some more of that in my future. I literally know people everywhere, and for a kid who was raised one step off the wheat fields in Kansas, it is a really big world out there. And the interesting thing is this: entrepreneurs are all very similar. Though we're in different businesses and different personalities and different size of companies, some mammoth, some not, okay, some growing, some declining. We've all experienced kind of the entire smorgasbord of entrepreneur experiences. And we like each other, and we deal with each other in a environment of trust and respect, to where we can discuss real issues, things that might be prickly with other people. But if I'm not, assertive and aggressive, we're just discussing this issue. It's not an attack, and I'm not being offensive, you're not being defensive, or vice versa. And, and maybe somehow we could translate some of that to Washington, D.C., or, even other governments across the world, to where we live in a world where there are prickly issues, but it helps if we can talk about them and find some common ground.
Wow. Okay, so we have about a minute left on final thoughts to the person watching, saying, am I cut out to be an entrepreneur? Should I do this? Would you recommend it to other people? Or do they have to have a risk tolerance? Do they have to have a certain DNA to be a successful entrepreneur?
I think if you're asking the question, would I be good at it? that probably qualifies you. And understand this, all of us, whether you're, award-winning reporter in your previous life, Jeff Crilley, or One Step Off the Farm, Don Williams, is that we learned. It maybe didn't work great day one or even day 71, but we learned how to do it, and you can learn too.
Yeah, and you don't have to have it all figured out. When Disney started, it was just a cartoon mouse.
Yeah.
And it became a global empire.
That mouse has gone a long way.
Sure has. Don, thank you so much. We're going to end with a couple of websites. So we'll put up eofortworth.org as the entrepreneur website, and then donwilliamsglobal.com is your website.
It is, man. Please feel free to reach out to me at any time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeff.
That's it for now. We'll see you next time.